Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. No business, industry, or economy has been spared from the impact of COVID-19. Many organizations now have to adapt to the new normal. Some industries have taken the impact more than others. Organizations are now wondering what next. Welcome to our webinar. Today, my name is Camille Sterling, Chief Operations Officer of Vertis Technology, and I'm your host for today. In this webinar, you will learn how to enable business continuity with Microsoft Office 365. Before I introduce our speaker for today, let me tell you a bit about Vertis. Vertis Technology is an IT solutions company offering services such as digital infrastructure, cloud, security, and emerging technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you hold your questions until the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded. Our speaker for today is Michael Kerr, our CTO. Michael leads the service delivery department, which is tasked to create and support solutions and services which enables organizations to meet their goals. Michael, it's now over to you.
All right, thank you, Camille. Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. Right, so just let me know, Camille, when you can see my presentation. Right, so enabling business continuity with Office 365. It is no more important than at this time, given what is being experienced globally, with organization needing more or less to be able to work from anywhere and be able to collaborate. And this is where Office 365 is enabling organizations as yourself to basically move or mobilize your workforce basically wherever to continue the relevant business processes and duties that they need to carry out. So Office 365 is not new. It's been around for some time. However, adoption to the tooling has been slow in most cases, and a number of organizations would have been hesitant a few months ago whether to move or adapt a cloud-based application. Now, given the need to work remotely, to work from anywhere, and to continue business operations, it means that we need to rapidly scale, rapidly adopt technologies, digital solutions to meet those requirements. And Office 365 is placed within, I would say, the top sphere of the adoption strategy as to productivity tooling, which will enable continuity production throughout for the business. So the way we work is changing. There's absolutely no secret to that, right? Especially being fast-tracked by COVID again, which means that these digital tools we must. It's not an if or when, or we can delay whether we adopt these tooling, yes or no. Users within the organization, external parties that trade with the organization, we need to share documents, we need to share files, etc. We need to send emails, all that sort of thing. And this is where Office 365 comes in. We need to have meetings. So no longer can we travel to offices to meet face to face. So similar to what we're experiencing now, which is utilizing a product or one of the features of Microsoft Office 365 is Microsoft Teams hosting this meeting. So Microsoft Office 365, what it is basically a combined tool set of your standard applications that you come to know and love, such as Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc., with the addition of storage capabilities such as SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams for collaboration. So historically, there would be Skype for Business or Link, which would be a bulky on-premise application that you need to stand up a bunch of servers to implement. Not every organization could implement a Microsoft Link solution, given the amount of architecture that is required and also the cost to implement that solution. Office 365 with that benefit by bundling all these digital capabilities that possibly would not be extensible to organizations that are not deemed as enterprise, with also the large IT budget to implement these solutions, can now leverage this solution to basically enhance their users with these toolings, and also provide the tools wherever the users need, given our need to basically work wherever. So workplaces. So imagine what it is now, right? So I am remote, Camille is remote. As a matter of fact, all of our staff are remote, with the exception of our engineers that need to be on site. The workplace as it stands at the moment is not an office location. It is wherever your staff member is. And globally, we see the likes of Microsoft is saying that no need for offices anymore. You work wherever remotely. We see countries like Bermuda adapting a remote working visa strategy per se, or tourism strategy, whereby they're saying, come to Bermuda, we'll give you a visa for a year for you to come and work remotely. So the workplace is no longer a physical location with four walls and you come and you sit in front of a desk and you're bolted to that computer. With Office 365, it means that, okay, we no longer need to sit in front of our desktops to access our file shares. We no longer need to sit in front of our desktop on the desk, accessing network resources locally. Also, we don't need to meet face-to-face with our team members in whether it be stand-ups, daily stand-ups, stand-down, etc., or other meetings. We can collaborate online using tools like Microsoft Teams, real-time chat if we need to engage with a member of our staff. Also availability with presence. You can see whether a staff member is busy, etc. So it does provide us with that level of capability. Microsoft Office 365 comes in different flavors, right? So based on the size of your business and your budget, and also your core business requirement, will define the Office 365 subscription level that is available to you, right? Several times we've seen organizations commit, and however, they're really quite sure what flavor of Office 365 or what subscription level is best suited for them. So this slide demonstrates the Office 365 subscriptions that are available. So there has been a rebranding per se of the Microsoft Office 365 suite. So it has been renamed over the past 2 months or so to Microsoft 365 Business. So if you're accustomed to Office 365, you would have been familiar with Microsoft Office 365, but no, it is Microsoft 365, because if we think back at the inception of Office 365, it was more geared around Microsoft Office tools, Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook, that sort of thing. Microsoft has taken it up a notch, which means that the name is no longer suited for the amount of business tools that are within this package. So Microsoft 365 is now the new thing for Microsoft Office 365 capabilities. So if you're an organization that just requires email functionality with some file sharing functionality online, and it is online only without the need for desktop applications such as Microsoft Word, Excel, or Outlook, the adoption would be the Microsoft 365 Business Basic license. Now, the catch to this is this license is for organizations with less than 300 users. So if you're not classed as an enterprise over the 300 user number, then and only require online tooling only, no desktop applications, Microsoft 365 Business is the option, and it is the most cost-efficient option of the three options that are set out in the slide. Microsoft 365 Business Standard. This is the full gamut of applications. So emails, so 50 gigs per mailbox for emails, 50 gig archiving, Microsoft Teams, which is what we're using now, SharePoint Online to allow you to migrate those legacy file servers, into your file shares into the cloud, which will allow you file sharing collaboration. OneDrive, so no more do we need that file share that is dedicated to the user. Normally we map it as a network drive, call it the U drive or the P drive. Now OneDrive is that area that is dedicated to that user, right? Whereby files or folders needs to be shared outside. Explicitly, it is in the control of the user. Now this moves the need for IT to manage file sharing. The onus is now on the user to basically manage who has access to their files and what that share capability can do. Microsoft Outlook, this is the installable version, so the fat client, the desktop version of the applications. So Microsoft 365 Business Standard will include Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, and Access. And these are desktop applications that a user can install. Well, they can activate up to 5 devices. So if within your organization, if you've got a number of different devices that one user may use, it means that once you install this tool or this set of applications on those devices, the user can basically roam and activate.
Michael,
Yes,
just
go.
confirming. Have been receiving messages. Persons are not seeing anything. The slides.
Okay, let me go on and share the slide again. Yeah.
Sure.
So if you confirm when you're seeing the slide for me, please.
Okay.
You're seeing it, right?
I'm seeing it from my end. Let me just confirm if others are seeing it. Yes, they are seeing it now. Great.
Okay, super. Right. So I think I was going through Microsoft 365 Business, which is the subscription level if you're looking for desktop applications, as well as the online services, the Exchange Online, Teams, SharePoint Online, OneDrive, the 365 Business capability. Subscription is the option for you. Now down to Microsoft 365 Business Premium, and this is the full gamut, right, for small business. So if you're less than 300 users, these are the subscription levels for you. We will see this is actually a new product, a new offering per se, which includes the online services, so SharePoint, Exchange Online, OneDrive, Teams, the desktop installable applications, as well as Microsoft Intunes and Protection Defender, Conditional Access, and Windows Virtual Desktop. Now, this license is important. So given our current position with COVID, a number of organizations would have implemented solutions such as terminal services or remote desktop session host set up within their environment, and they realize that they've got a version of Office 365, and they're getting warning message that they cannot activate within a shared environment. So if your organization is running any sort of multi-user environment, multi-user desktop publishing or application publishing environment, whether it be VMware Horizon View, Citrix, Zen Desktop or ZenApp, or Microsoft Remote Desktop Services, and you have installed Office 365 or Microsoft applications on the desktops, you will need the minimum of Microsoft 365 Business Premium licenses. So these are the licenses that will allow share activation on those shared user environments. So there are additional capabilities within this that are outside of the standard, with the exception of the shared desktop application activation, and that is conditional access. So what is conditional access? So for instance, you're operating in Jamaica and you want to restrict where your users can connect to Office 365 from, or the cloud services from. You will implement conditional access rules to say restrict access to my Office 365 capability only to Jamaica and no other country. And you can tweak those policies, say, if somebody was to travel to the United States, to Canada, to the wherever, just-in-time access can be provisioned using conditional access, say, allow this particular user to connect to the cloud services remotely. And this is an additional security feature whereby we are concerned about unintended access from different regions or countries to our Office 365 capability. Microsoft Intunes. So why do we need Intunes? So if we're familiar with MDM, given the need and the rise of utilization of mobile devices, so that could be mobile phone, a tablet device, that could be laptop devices. Microsoft Intunes is an MDM solution, which is mobile device management solution, which provides the capability to deploy policies, control policies, down to these end user devices. So given that the users are working remotely, they're taking devices away from the location, or they're no longer at this office location, you can restrict, you can send various policies to restrict launching of application, installation of applications, deployment of applications themselves down to these end user devices using Microsoft Intunes. And Defender, their Microsoft malware capability that's been extended down in this license. Windows Virtual Desktop. So it says Windows Virtual Desktop. So Microsoft has recently released a virtual desktop capability that is known as Windows Virtual Desktop. And if you are using or has Microsoft 365 Business Premium subscription license, this basically saying you're authorized to utilize Windows Virtual Desktop capability from Microsoft Azure. However, what it doesn't say is that you will need to pay for the compute resources within Microsoft Azure. So it doesn't include the virtual desktop compute cost that would be provisioned within Microsoft Azure. It only provides you the license to access a Windows 10 desktop from Microsoft Cloud. So how do we securely run your business from Office 365? And we touched on a bit of that in the previous slide, whereby the introduction of the Microsoft Defender, conditional access controls, and policies. But what Microsoft offers you outside of that and Microsoft 365 is that traditionally we're running file servers on premise. We need to provide an audit trail of who is accessing what, who is deleting what, who moved these files. And we would need to introduce third-party tooling, right, to make sure that we've got those that audit mechanism on our file service. With Microsoft Office 365, that is out of the box. So those protection tooling are outside of the box, and it is extended all the way from email capability, file capability, and access to the environment. So when we think about anti-malware, anti-phishing, that sort of thing, all those cyber threat protection capabilities are bundled within the Microsoft Office 365 suite, which to provide a capability to allow users to work remotely, to allow business continuity, it sits really nicely. And again, stay productive, right? Don't stress, work from anywhere. There's absolutely no difference as to how you would work within the office from working from anywhere utilizing Microsoft Office 365 or 365 cloud capabilities. So you'll access your emails, you'll access your data, you'll access your desktops if you're using a VDI capability based on Microsoft seamlessly. You can collaborate with all your team members just as if you were in the office. So it is a secure solution, but however, we need to remember it is as best as how you configure it, which is where an organization like Vertis comes in to provide the guidance as to the best practices configuration that needs to be adopted to make sure that you really have a stress-free life with the implementation of Office 365. And Camille, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Michael. And I will throw out a few questions to you. I'm just awaiting. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Okay, Andrew Senior. There's a question from Andrew Senior. Is there a one-time installation version or just always subscription?
Okay, is there a one-time installation version or just always subscription? So with the consideration of Microsoft 365 or Office 365, whichever you call it, it is a subscription-based application or feature set. There isn't a one-time installation. And if we look what is happening now with software and application, majority of applications out there are now moving to the subscription model instead of a perpetual license model whereby you buy once and utilize it as a man. And one of the primary reasons for this is the evergreen adoption, which means that they are continuously. I'm not sure if you lost me there, Camille. I was just answering the question regarding the one-time installation.
We can hear you.
Okay, right. So I was saying that Microsoft or most software vendors are adopting subscription model going forward. And this is because of the evergreen development life cycle that these application vendors or solution vendors have adopted, which means that you'll always get the latest application. Traditionally, you'll purchase a license, install it, and then after a few years, when the product is end of life and end of support, you have to buy again. So with subscription, it means that your application remains evergreen. So you're always on the latest technology with the latest updates and patches all the time.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I have a question. Is migrating to Office 365 difficult?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And the reason why is yes or no, right? It is not a one size fit all, right? So whereby an organization is already utilizing, say, a mail service in the cloud like G Suite, etc., and we're not relying on Flow and Digicel, right? It means that we can quickly migrate it's all around data transition, right? How quick can we move the data and the structure of the data. So for email migrations, if you're running a very legacy on-premise Exchange, well, 2003, if you're running Exchange 2003, you can seamlessly migrate to Office 365 with an hybrid setup, 2003, 2007, 2010, 2016, it doesn't matter. Where the challenge comes in is when we're looking to move files and the files are not so structured, right? So we got tons and tons of map drives which aren't really structured. It is that due diligence that needs to happen from a project perspective to go through and ratify all those files to make sure that we can migrate them in a sensible manner. But no, is it difficult? No, quick and easy, to be honest. If you're already a cloud, it means that we can even move you quicker. So the speed to adoption, what we see when it concerns data migration is down to the available bandwidth within the customer's environment.
Okay, how difficult is, well, how secure will my data be?
That's a good question, right? So with any sort of security question or security tooling or adoption, right, it is as secure as good as your engineer that is implementing the solution, right? So it is 9 times out of 10, it is not the solution. It is about the implementation. So take for example, if you buy a firewall from, I don't know, Fortinet or Cisco, and you buy it out of the box and you put it in, it's going to work, right? It's going to shift traffic, but it's not doing anything because you haven't configured any policies. So it's similar to Office 365. Office 365 provides out-of-the-box security. However, you need to know tailor that security using policies to make sure that you're protecting yourself against spamming, you're protecting against spoofing, your identity management, you're rotating your credentials, you're implementing conditional access policies, that sort of thing. So whereby you're running an on-premise Active Directory environment. What we've seen, because you can go and buy Microsoft Office 365 online, 9 times out of 10, quite a few. What we've seen is that one tends to go online and buy it and think that, okay, let's buy it, let's use it, because next finish, and it works. But then thinking of it from a business perspective, that the data that is within the solution is business data, is critical data, is sensitive data, right? From the business perspective, we need to consider all the security parameters that needs to be wrapped around it. So if you're an organization running an on-premise Active Directory environment, what we've seen organizations go and purchase Office 365 online, and then the user has two username and passwords, one for Office 365 or Microsoft 365 in the cloud, and the other one that they use to log onto the laptop. Now, that is a recipe for disaster, right? Because you're asking the user to remember two passwords. The likelihood is that they're going to keep one very simple, or they're going to write it on a sticky note and paste it someplace else. Right. So what we recommend in this case is to implement an Azure Active Directory integration with your on-premise identity solution, and that could be whether it be an ADFS or a single sign-on. There are several ways to achieve it to make sure that that user has that single identity across whatever application they're accessing. Also, based on the nature of the organization, you may want to implement multi-factor authentication to protect against access to the data. Right. And again, sensitizing the user that they need to work from secure places, right? Because you don't know who is looking over your backs and seeing what you're typing in.
Okay. Can I mix the licenses? Michael, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Can you mix licenses?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can definitely. So good example is if you're an organization that operates a warehouse, right? And your staff members within the warehouse only need access to emails, or you've got staff members that are on the road 24/7, right? So they don't need access to Microsoft Word. They don't need access to some of the fat applications, right? It means you could mix licenses. It could mean that you're running a terminal services or a shared environment, a shared desktop or application environment. But not all users need access to those. You could mix a business premium license with a business basic license. You could mix a kiosk license for your teleworkers that doesn't need access to full fat applications, or is just purely on the road or within a warehouse that needs to access emails. Yeah, so you can.
Okay. Yes, so I have another question. This is coming from Kareem. What role does the ISP play with having smooth experience while using Office 365 Business?
So the ISP is very important, right? So whilst there don't need to be a direct engagement with the ISP regarding connectivity, where the users are connecting from primarily, or during the transition within a data center, there needs to be stable connection and as much bandwidth as possible for a smooth experience in moving to the cloud. So if you're an organization with a 2 meg bandwidth, then we could sit there for the next 1 year to move. But what we do within migration, if we can burst or ask the ISP to basically give us a burst on the bandwidth for that duration of migration, it means that we can achieve it seamless. But yes, bandwidth is critical. The stability and the availability of the bandwidth is critical.
Okay, does anyone else have a question? You may raise your hand and you may ask verbally. You don't have to type it in the chat.
So is Microsoft 365 supported on all mobile devices? Um, all. So I would say all with a little star beside it. And the reason is once it is a supported operating system, so we know there are some level of Android devices that are no longer supported. So if you're once a device is the operating system is up to date, whether it be Android, iOS, it is supported. The make and model doesn't matter. It's the operating system. So so far, whether it be Windows, Mac, Android, iOS for Apple, it's supported.
Okay, I see Sanjay Stevens has a question. You may go ahead and unmute, Sanjay.
Right. Good morning. I want to understand what would the integration be, what would be the difference between using Azure and Microsoft 360 in terms of migrations?
Okay, so what would be the integration between Microsoft Azure and
What
365?
what would be the difference?
What would be the difference? So it's two different solutions, right? So Microsoft Azure is a cloud platform that is meant for hosting. However, the directory service, so there's a lightweight directory service, which is Azure Active Directory, that Office or Microsoft 365 utilizes for user identity. All right, so all their user accounts are backed using Azure Active Directory, which is a feature out of the Azure capability. But to answer your question, do I need an Azure tenant to migrate to Office 365? No. Okay,
We
how
have
does
another
hybrid,
question, Michael.
yeah, how does hybrid Azure Active Directory work exactly? And how difficult would you say it is to implement? Okay, so again, the difficulty has to do with the experience and the skill of the implementer. Uh, regards to how it works, so seamlessly, so basically the your on-premise Active Directory objects, and those are selectable, so is synchronized up to Microsoft Azure Active Directory, which means that the passwords and the username are synced based on the configuration. So there are several different methods of achieving single sign-on with Microsoft Office 365. And again, this is based on the size of your organization, will dictate what method is used for single sign-on. So it could be an Active Directory synchronization with ADFS. It could mean an Active Directory synchronization with Azure Proxy for SSO. It's been a synchronization whereby the passwords are hashed. And the level of capability that is achieved or can be achieved within a hybrid setup is dictated by your license or your subscription type. So Microsoft Active Directory has got different levels. So premium, P1, P2. Where you're running business premium licenses, you will get a Microsoft Azure Active Directory P2 Azure Active Directory capability, which means that we could do more with the directory service. And if you're in the enterprise space whereby you're running E-series licenses, you can even achieve more by implementing domain services, etc.
All right, do we have any other question from our guests? Just a reminder, we do have prizes. So the more that you participate, that increases your chances to win. All right, so Michael, can I have on-site and cloud email infrastructure?
Yes, Commit, we do it all the time. So large organizations running on-premise exchange or the adoption of Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office 365 needs to be tiered. For instance, you don't want to buy 1,000 licenses at once. You want to say, let's test 10, 20 users per se, then we'll go and set up a hybrid exchange environment, and then we'll move those 10 users, which means that there are some users who remain on premise with their email capability while others are in the cloud. And when you're moving a large organization, that is normally the process of basically phasing the migration, so as to not overwhelm your bandwidth as well, because we'll be moving archive mailboxes, we'll be moving live user mailboxes, so you can easily overwhelm the bandwidth that is available. Because what we see in an organization doesn't have hundreds and gigs of internet bandwidth going into the cloud. So yeah, you can.
Okay, in terms of, well, does Microsoft Office 365 help with my data privacy goals? Okay,
Camille, I think I lost the question.
Let me go again. Does Office 365 help with my data privacy goals?
Data privacy, yes. So once those are clearly defined, policies, the capability is present within Office 365 for you to basically implement strategies within the protection capability to allow those privacy goals that you would have set out in your strategy.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any other questions? Okay, I see another one in the chat. Let me just see. Okay. Can Microsoft Teams integrate with CRM programs? If so, name some.
And the question is yes. So it says with CRM program. So Microsoft 365 Dynamics, right, is a CRM from Microsoft, and out of the box it integrates. This is a part of the whole Microsoft 365 enablement. However, third-party CRM applications, yes, you can integrate Microsoft Teams with those. So Zoho CRM, if you're a user of Zoho CRM, if you're a user of Pipedrive, there are several. Also, bear in mind the API, if you've got development capability in-house or with your systems integrator, the API for Microsoft Teams is open. So whereby your CRM offers that capability to basically write some sort of middleware code to do the integration. Yes, so if it's not supported out of the box, Microsoft Teams uses Graph API, which means that you could basically push any messages with a little coding knowledge into Microsoft Teams from basically any solution that offers an API integration.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Is API a separate license cost?
No, it's not. The Microsoft API Teams API is open for utilization, and you can use it at will. However, what I must add though, it needs some way to authenticate into Microsoft Teams. So you will need to use a service license, which is another license identity to basically have the API integration. So whilst a license is required, but there is no additional cost over and above that, with the exception of the development time and resource that is required to build those APIs.
Michael, can you share any fun or war stories for deployment?
Fun or war stories? I'm not sure about fun. I don't know. So I've been migrating to Office 365 now. When I remember when Microsoft was just trying to launch Office 365 back in 2011, and they called us in an office in London and they gave us £20 in a brown envelope to say, uh, "Let us tell you about this wonderful product as engineers, and we pay you 20 quid to listen." Right? And then all of us took the 20 quid and I was like, this is absolutely rubbish because it's going to put us all over the job. You know, why would we upload? And then fast tracked, like nobody adopted it. Fast tracked a few years on, and now here we are with everyone. We're telling everyone that okay, you need to go to this product. 2011, we didn't want to hear about it because like Microsoft is going to take all the jobs. How do we make money from this thing? What do we do? You know, so that that would say was a downer in a sense. So at that time, but yeah, we've grown to adopt and mature to the solution.
Okay, we have a few more questions coming in. All right, Joe Knight. I would like to know in regards to education, is Microsoft Office 365 better in terms of accessibility to persons?
So the answer is twofold, right? Um, Microsoft 365 has got a subscription that is dedicated to the education sector, right? I know on the international space, if your education institution is running a .edu or can be that it is an education institution, the license is free, right? Which the only thing that needs to be considered is implementation. Now, accessibility, one would need to consider connectivity. So whether you're connecting over 4G, 5G, 3G, broadband, fiber, once you've got that internet connectivity, then I would say out of what is available, I know I can speak for most of the schools here within the UK. All of them are using Microsoft Teams for online schooling and collaboration. I think there's another question. What should I consider
Yes.
moving from Google to Office 365? I would like to go migrate emails, files, and okay. So yeah, so the consideration for that is, a matter of fact, you're in a very good position moving from Google because you don't have to contend with the high latency, slow bandwidth from Flow and Digital, right? So you're moving from cloud to cloud. Microsoft 365 has built a migration capability within their onboarding feature set that seamlessly allow you to migrate from Google from G Suite. So you get all emails, you get all your calendars, basically everything that would have been present. Also your files. So the migration approach is seamless. So basically collating all your license types, so your users and what license they will need based on what is present, and also how many licenses would you need for service accounts. So, for instance, you'll be using sending emails from printers, etc., or other devices that are not named users, and that is sometimes what we tend to forget. Microsoft Office 365 is licensed based on named users, but there are sometimes these accounts within the environment that you will need a license for service accounts that you'll need to possibly use to send emails from or to. Another question for government organization, the location of where the data is stored should be important with regards to with Microsoft 365. Can you choose? Okay, that's a good one, right? So Jamaica is not in a very good state to choose where the data is. There is currently no Microsoft data centers within the Caribbean region. There is several within North America, Canada, the United States, and there is data centers down in Brazil, Sao Paulo. However, Microsoft 365 data is held per region, and based on the region we're in, it is highly likely that our data will be stored in the States. It won't go to China or Russia within those data centers, but it will remain within this region.
Okay, Michael, I believe there was one more question. Only thing is the user files on premises. I guess it's a follow-up to Taishan's question, Michael.
Is that no? I think that's from Roger. User files and file shares between. Yeah. So again, Roger, to answer your question, user files can be mixed, right? So you can have user files on shared drives, on a file server on premise. You can move those to either Microsoft Teams or SharePoint team sites. However, team sites go to these days if we're looking to move file shares. We will migrate your network drives to dedicated Microsoft Teams, and this gives the owners of the ownership of those files to the owner of that team site, which means that no longer does IT need to manage a file share, to add users, to assign permissions, etc. You could create a whole defined rule set around the teams, who can access, where they can access from, that sort of thing, who can be added, what files can be shared, etc.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a very engaging presentation, webinar, discussion. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Please feel free to send us, if you have any other questions, you may send it to sales@vertisjm.com, and we will be happy to give you a call or respond via email. As said earlier, we do have 2 prizes, and I know in 2021 we'll be having more webinars like this, so you'll have more chances to win. We will be announcing, well, we have 2 winners, Andrew Senior and Joan Knight. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to ask Andrew and Joan, please just reach out to me. You may send it to sales@vertisjm.com, your email address, other information, and we'll definitely reach out to you so that you can claim your prize. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Michael, thank you very much.
Thanks, Camille. A pleasure. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Very collaborative proof of Office 365, right? The Microsoft Teams. Thank you.
All right, great. Take care, guys.